Guys, I just got back to the office. For lack of a better phrase, today I got my ass kicked. Guys, I got a bunch of vlogs up. Um, when is this? I think I'm gonna put up a vlog later on today. But this weekend I got a few that I got to put out. Guys, you didn't see this yesterday. A job that I went on. I think when was this? This was after the call I put up, or probably I did 3 jobs yesterday. I put one up. My first job I had, which was the maintenance on that train furnace. I put that up, but there was another one I went to that was a double maintenance. I got to put that one up, and there was another one that I did yesterday that I got to edit and put up. So, guys, be on the lookout. I'm gonna put more vlogs up, and also, like I said, guys, the informational shorts, I'll be sure to add those on. To be honest with you guys, it takes more time for me to upload long form videos than like shorts, but some people like the shorts, some people like the long form videos. Like I said, guys, I can put both up. It's no big deal, but you'll see a lot more like smaller shorts than you would long form videos, because like I said, guys, it's a bunch of random shit that I can conjure up. Like, that's really not much for me to do, but I see you guys definitely, you guys show a lot of report. You guys show a lot of love and support for, those shirts that I put up. So, but guys, let's get into the topic. I want to get into the mental health aspect of HVAC. Now, guys, I briefly touched on this, briefly with hearing, I think it was a few episodes ago, guys. Like I told you guys, with whatever you guys do in your personal time, HVAC is HVAC. It's not really going to change. But in regards to how you guys unload, how you relax when you're not thinking about work, guys, this really comes into play in the summertime. We got to definitely talk about this in the summertime. What helps me relax may not help another person relax. Hopefully it's not detrimental to your health or nothing crazy or putting your life at risk. But guys, my thing is this: like, taking care of yourselves mentally and physically, that can save your life. Forget about HVAC. Don't get me wrong, like, HVAC does pay the bills, and like I said, we love what we do. Well, I hope most of you guys love what you do as far as for HVAC, and it's great. We don't regret anything that we do in the field. But like, guys, if HVAC can only give you so much, physically, well, monetarily, that's what it's about. We got to pay our bills. But in regards to like the mental aspect, because we do a lot of work, here and there. But guys, the point is, and I mentioned this before, but I never made this a specific topic in regards to, what you do to kind of like, replenish yourself. I already mentioned physically, guys, like I said, going to the gym. I never met someone that felt worse going to the gym. So like I said, guys, whatever your regimen is, going to the gym physically, that's the easiest thing to do, unless you got some type of ailment or surgery or something like that. Going to the gym is only going to help you out. But guys, another layer to replenishment and making sure, you're coming back fully focused is whatever you guys do, you got something on your mind that you're dealing with, you definitely got to figure something out as far as like, you got to understand HVAC is not going to help all your problems, and like I had a conversation, this had to be like last month. I was talking to one of the guys at the supply house, and like he was telling me one, and I'm gonna eradicate names, and like I said, where this was, but he was telling me it was another guy that he worked with, younger guy. He was very passionate about HVAC, but like, he had a lot on his mind. Like I said, guys, everybody goes through it. I don't judge. I don't put my life on a pedestal like I'm the person you should be, or vice versa. I like giving you guys the real deal. Everybody has something they have to go through. Everybody's fighting something that, like I said, guys, that no one knows about. And like I said, that's what makes you resilient as a human being, in regards of what you have to deal with. You got to put your hard hat on, and you got to, like I said, you got to face the world every day. Not everybody can do it, but, for the ones that can do it, that's why you always respect people. You got to treat people like how you want to be treated, because deep down, you never know what someone's going through. They could be on their last straw or on some other stuff. So like, I always try to respect people. But anyway, guys, back to this story. The guy was telling me, like, this is a younger guy. He had to be like in his early 20s, no older than like 24. I forgot how old he was, but he was telling me like he just got out of school. He just started with the company like maybe 4 or 5 months ago, and the dude was, I think he did installs and then he switched to service. But like, the dude was a phenomenal tech. Everybody liked him, but deep down he was definitely going through a lot, in his personal life. And like I said, guys, eventually if you're working with someone, even if they don't say nothing, eventually you can tell when like something's wearing down on your mind, if something's wearing down on the other person's mind as far as, who you're working with. And, if y'all cool like that, you can definitely just, pull them to the side or pull her to the side and say, hey, what's going on? You good? And, if they're open to talk to you about it, just sit back and listen sometimes. Sometimes people might need somebody to vent to. Little do y'all know, like I said, I talk shit on here all the time. This is my way of venting to y'all. So, like, but back to the story, he basically opened up like a couple months in. He was like, yeah, he was going through family issues and like, there's a lot going on like at home. But the point is, like, he was still killing it at work. Everybody liked being around and working, but like, as the months went by, it got worse and worse, and that's when, I hate to say it, that's when the kid turned towards like, drugs and like things like that, guys. And like, that's one thing I'll tell you guys, like, everybody deal with their problems differently. I'm not telling you as a man or a woman, some of you guys are above 18. I'm not telling you how you should deal with your problems, but only thing I can tell you is that, there is no quick solution to like a long-term problem. If you got a long-term problem, like if you feel like you get like upset easy, or you feel like, like if you feel like the world is like caving on your chest, like drinking your sorrows away, or like doing drugs, like that shit is only going to turn into an addiction that's going to cost you like a lot of money. And like, I've seen this happen like 1,000 times. I don't put anybody's names on this, but it's just like, at the end of the day, guys, it's going to be hard to deal with it, like I said, guys, because, most of the problems we all deal with is in our mind, and someone else can't tell you how to feel or how to think, like, whatever's on your mind when you go to sleep, when you go to bed, guys, that's some shit that you got to wake up and deal with. Problems don't necessarily go away unless you have a formula in your head as far as how I'm going to deal with this, and only you can really deal with it. There's people like therapy and shit like that you can, you can look up, and like, I think BetterHelp is one of them. But like, in regards to like with the kid, man, he was a young boy, man. Like, he was damn near 21, 22. And like I said, guys, like, he never really talked about his personal problems. And like, the dude told me, and the guy, one of my boys, he was telling me, we're both almost the same age, 33, 34. He was telling me the dude ain't say shit, but eventually, like, his decision making when he was at home led to like, problems on the job site. Now, like, he was coming into work, high, and like, it got to a point where like he started off perfect, man. Like, started off out of trade school, working, like I said, like he excelled very quickly, and installed, and they moved him to service. And then once he started coming into work just out of his mind, that's when they had to move him back to install. They couldn't move him back to they couldn't put him back in service, because like, I guess he got into it with a customer, and I'm like, shit, like. And I mean, the point is, he never really, I don't know if someone tried to step in for intervention. I'm talking like at work, but it's just like, I mean, if he wasn't ready to talk about it, you can't force a grown man, assume he was above 18. You can't force a grown man or a grown woman to like talk if they're not ready to talk about some things, you feel me? But it was like, seeing that situation, man, I'm like, damn, man, like, I know, like I said, I go through it too, but like I said, guys, I have my own personal way of going through shit. And like I said, guys, this is no ego. This is just, I know how life works, like, how I grew up. Like I said, guys, I knew that, and I told you guys this on multiple videos. Once I knew that nobody was coming to save me, guys, like, it's either sink or swim. I mean, that's kind of like the easiest way I can sum it up. Once I know that no one's coming to save me, it's either I got to make shit happen, or that's it. But like, I mean, not everybody has that personality or that mentality, and that's okay. I can only tell you how I am. Like, some people may need more help, some people may need less help, but like, no one's fucking perfect. No one, everybody has something that they got to deal with. That's no one's a perfect, figure. You're gonna, like I said, I was telling someone this the other day, like, everybody's gonna be a work in progress. It's always gonna be something that you're gonna have to work on. The only people, like I said, guys, not to down these people that's selling shit online, trying to sell you courses into how to deal with things. I'm not saying all of them are fake, but most of them are. But like, the point is, we're all a work in progress. That's why I was telling you guys earlier, like, you have to treat people how you want to be treated, because like, you got some people, I hate to say it, they could be literally on their last fucking pin, and like, they can literally be smiling in your face, same demeanor, and like I said, something could snap in their mind, and then now they get ready to kill themselves or kill someone else. And it's just like, think about the school shooters. It's just like, it's already happened a handful of times now this year with that, and it's just like, it sucks, man. Like I said, and remember, you can only help someone that wants to be helped. I don't know what that dynamic was. They say he was cool with everybody, but like, I don't know if anyone, maybe it's bosses or his managers, I don't know if anyone ever stepped in and like, hey, like, once you notice, like I said, for instance, with one of my guys, if I notice somebody's off, fuck work. Work is always going to be here. But I'll step aside and say, yo, is there anything I can do? If you need to take a week off here or there, like just make sure you're good. Because like I said, if you're not right mentally in your head, guys, I don't give a damn what you do, whether it be HVAC, whether it be, hopefully, driving, whatever the case is. Hopefully it's nothing crazy, but like, I don't care what it is, but if you're not right in your head, if you going into your workplace every day thinking about some other things, like you can't clear your mind or at least think with a neutral mind, if you go in thinking negative, like eventually that's going to affect your workmanship, guys. And it's just, eventually it's only going to lead to bigger issues at the workplace. It doesn't have to be HVAC, but it's just like that kid basically killed his whole career, man. And I mean, I guess he quit, once, someone confronted him about it, but like, it's just, it got to a point, man. It was just like, damn, like it's, you like I said, man, it's never a bad idea to try to help people. I know you can't help everybody, but it's just like somebody with that much promise and that young. I mean, if you could step in and just say, hey, I know what you're going through, but like I said, if you need somebody to talk to, just, hey, I'm around, if you want to pull me aside, we can definitely talk about it, because everybody goes through something, and maybe that person may not be may not be comfortable talking with his boss or his manager, but like coworkers in general, it may be easier for someone to talk with a coworker. Maybe they can't get that communication at home, Like I say, everybody has different dynamics, and like that's something I learned a long time ago. It may look different for everybody, but like once someone get past that point of like no return, it's like, man, like what can you really do about that, like, and like that's not the first time I heard that happen. Like HVAC, I feel like HVAC guys have a bad rep of either being alcoholics or like drug addicts. I mean, guys, like, once again, you never know what that person been through before they got into HVAC, but like, I feel as though it's really not true for the most part. You got addicts and fucking alcoholics in every single trade. It's not just HVAC, but I feel as though, like I said, guys, the mental health aspect, when I was growing up, I'm talking like when I already was in HVAC, when I had that hour-and-a-half job, how I dealt with my problems was I was like, what, I'm not just going to sit at home dwelling about me not having a job. I'm just going to try my best to just stay active, stay working, even if I didn't have a job in HVAC, staying in the books. Like, literally, guys, how I deal with negativity is I take action. I say, what, all right, what moves can I make? All right, no one's calling me. I just applied to 8,000 companies. What moves can I make? All right, let me just jump back in the books. Let me quiz myself on like more things I need to learn. Guys, like, I mean, that mentality, once again, that it works for me, but like I said, guys, staying busy and staying active towards something that's going to be positive and beneficial down the line for you, that's a good way to deal with negativity. But like, guys, staying at home, for instance, in my situation, like staying at home wishing someone will call, like, that's not me. Eventually I knew that's not how the world works. Like, I can't, some things are just out of your control. If no one's hiring, that's not you shouldn't badmouth other companies. If they don't have a need for your services, or they don't have a need for them to bring you on, then you just can't feel some type of way if they don't bring you on. But like, the only thing you can do is control how you view the situation. If you control that in a good way and say, what, maybe they're not looking for people now, but guess what, I'm gonna stay ready, and if opportunity comes up in the fall, then I'm gonna try my best to take full advantage of it by being prepared. I'm gonna look into my notes, make sure I'm prepared. And like, guys, I mentioned this before, like in my intro video, that 50-50, meeting someone halfway by staying prepared. Like, you're gonna put yourself halfway past everybody else. Because a lot of people, once times get hard, that's when shit hits the fan and people slow down, But it's just, that's the time really to buckle down and like just lock in. Make sure you stay disciplined. You're not making matters worse. And like I said, guys, like, I'm pretty sure you heard this before. The 7 deadly sins, like, that alcohol and drugs stuff like that. That shit is, and like I said, guys, I'm 33. I'm not talking from like being 19 or being like, I can tell you how it is right now. It's just like, that recreation stuff is meant to be like recreation, but like, you can't let vices like control your life like that, because it's just mentally, you got to make sure you can stay in control of your thinking, stay in control of your emotions, and you can stay in control of your urges. Here's my thing. Like, here's how I look at it. And let me read the comments here, guys, because I can go for hours about this. Sheena Roberts, yep. Said hello. I see your comments. But all I'm saying is this, guys, like, urges, I thought about this too, because like I said, my only vice is like alcohol. That was like when I was 19, 20 years old, but I never smoked. I never did drugs. That was never my thing. But like, my only issue with alcohol is that it made me gain weight. That's why I had to stop doing it, and that's what got me more into like going to the gym. But like, health is wealth, guys. However, whatever you have to do, like I said, to stop your vice. But one thing I realized, guys, when I stopped the alcohol thing, and I'm like, you know what? It's us as human beings. Like, we have emotions. Everybody has a vice. I don't give a damn what it is. If you're a homeless person, you got a vice. If you have $100,000 in your account, you got a vice. If you're a millionaire, you have a vice. I feel like each and every level has its vice, and based on your personality, you're gonna have something that you're gonna have to deal with. It's just like, that's just how life works. But it's just, those urges when it comes up to like eat past 9 o'clock, to pick up a drink, when you should be, that alcohol is going to put on more calories and make you eat more, which is going to put you in a calorie, surplus. Like, fuck that, guys. Like, but like I said, like, it's just, vices never go away, but eventually you just learn what's good for you. You learn how to prioritize things. Like, and I mean, it could be the gym, it could be reading books. Like I said, it's not up to me to let you know what's good for you. You have to go out and try a bunch of things. I'm talking like in a good way. Find that peace and find that balance, but make sure it's not so tied into work, because like, guys, there's a lot of people, and like, I know, because I used to be like that until I got a bigger perspective. But like, there's a lot of people right now that deal with their problems by just constantly working. Whatever job they work at, they could work 4 10-hour shifts, but you know what? Once they have boyfriend girlfriend issues, they might say, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna work 70 hours a week, not knowing that eventually that 70-hour work week, it may be good for maybe a week or two, but that third week, it's going to take a physical toll on you. And now, guess what? Since you're so used to working 70 hours, now when you have to take a break because now you got exhaustion, now how will you deal with that mentally? By resting, you will be physically okay, but now mentally you have to be able to replenish, when you feel like you drained out, like that could mean turning your damn phone off, staying off social media, like whatever you have to do, man. Because like I said, guys, I feel like this is happening way too many times, and like a lot of people don't talk about it unless it happens to somebody they know. I mean, but the fact that we're all in a trade, I don't care if you're in HVAC or not, but like, if you don't have like a consistent way of checking yourself when you feel like you kind of like about to crash out, or when you feel like, yo, like, shit, I'm really getting my ass kicked today, let me just chill, let me just kind of like make sure I know where I'm at. Self-awareness is definitely key. You got to make sure that you can check yourself. And I mean, therapy does help, but like, but in my opinion, I mean, in my stance, I feel like once you kind of like been around the globe a few times, you kind of like you should know yourself. And I know myself. I know when I feel like all right, I'm already 6 days in straight working. All right, that 7th day, I'm gonna chill out. I'm gonna make sure I don't take on more responsibilities. Sunday, let me just chill out. And like I said, all I need is a couple hours of just not thinking about work, not thinking about business. And like that 8th day, that Monday, I'm back rolling. But like, that works for me, guys. But like, I don't rely on someone. I don't need a phone notification. I don't need a therapist to tell me when I should take breaks for myself. But I just know what that looks like, and I know how it feels for me when I'm overloaded, with work stress. And like, guys, like I said, whatever you have to do, don't feel ashamed for taking time off for yourself, but you got to be honest with yourself, like that's, and here's my thing, guys. A lot of people aren't honest with themselves until it's too late, like, don't wait until you're in a hospital with damn God knows what, with nerve problems or like, dehydration problems. They're in the hospital giving you IVs. Now the doctor's telling you, you got to chill because you're doing something too much. Either you're going long periods without staying hydrated, or you're working too. Guys, like, you need a balance. And I mean, that's very cliche in regards to like balance, but it's just like, I don't believe in balance because, like I said, guys, some days, you have to work your ass off. There's just really no way around it. Like, when I'm at work, I'm not really thinking about days I'm not working. I'm thinking about doing the best I can do, while I'm still on the clock, and like when I'm not working, I'm prepared for when I get the next opportunity. Okay, what can I do now to ensure that when I get the opportunity, it goes smooth? If that means I got to prepare for a job or prepare for like, something else that's coming up, I'm gonna make sure I'm one step ahead. But like, guys, but like I said, guys, but that work-life balance thing, it really doesn't exist. It may be a fallacy that people may sell you like online, but the work-life balance is really what you make it. Some people can work longer than others without it having like a negative downside. And like, what happens if you don't work, unless you got somebody taking care of you, that's a different dynamic. But like, for the most of us, like I said, we got to work for a living. So like, you need to work to make a decent living, but the point is, guys, if on the back end, this is what a lot of people don't don't deal with up front. They wait until it's too late. But if you don't have a way, I don't know what it is, playing basketball, playing 2K, I don't get, I'm talking for you young guys, 20 plus years old, as long as you got a job and you paying bills. If you play video games on your spare time, I don't give a damn what you do, as long as you're not thinking about HVAC. As far as like, I need you to relax. You get what I'm saying? There's a fine line between when you're not working, when you're like studying, like that's totally different. When I was on my way up to learn HVAC, there was a lot of time on my off time that went into training, studying, but like that's what I wanted to do. But like, I feel like once you guys hit that, and I talk about this a lot too, like that proverbial mountain. Here's how it goes, just like this, guys. You're out of trade school, you want to learn as much as you can about HVAC. You want to get thrown into the fire sooner or later in regards to like, you're going to have to show what you know. But as soon as you get to that point of like, you know what, now, I know what I wanted to learn. I learned it, now I have it. Now, the next test is going to be on you. It's eventually it's going to be you versus you. You're going to be your own worst enemy. Are you going to double down and try to learn more? But now, if you learn more, what does that come with? Does that come with less time to see your friends and family? Does that come with less time to prioritize your health? There, like I said, guys, it's every single good thing that you can think of has a negative thing attached to it. You have to take the bad with the good. You can't get it separate. There's no perfect life. There's no perfect way of doing anything. If you work hard, it's going to have to be some negative ramifications to it. Time that you're investing into working, it's going to be time taken away from something else. And like, you have to be okay with that. Does it feel good? No, knowing that, like I said, it's going to be a lot of shit you're going to miss, but make sure this is what you want to do, because if this is something you want to do, then like, you shouldn't have any regrets as far as with the time you invested. I have no regrets with, the things I couldn't be a part of at that time, because like I said, guys, if I didn't take the time to invest in myself early, then, this definitely would have been, like I said, a worst case scenario for me, but like I said, guys, I'm going to sum this up because I got to roll. I'm going to sum this up by saying, mental health is definitely important. Like I said, guys, like, what peace and happiness looks like to you, when you're not working, it could be different than how it looks like for me or someone else. But like I said, guys, like, you don't want to be workaholics to a point where like, things are good. Like I said, when the work schedule is medium, but once things gets busy, you find yourself, like I said, with physical elements. Like that shit happens every year in our industry, with HVAC. But like, make sure you guys are out there taking care of yourself. I'm gonna drill this point home, like I said, every single live I go on, guys, because I know every single time I mention this video, I feel like it's probably 100 people every single day that's probably having some type of elements from really not understanding what it means, just to step aside from work. And I'm not saying you don't have to always take time off work, but what you do when you get home, if you have find your safe haven, your 5-10 minutes, I don't care where that is or how that looks, but make sure, like I said, you have you can find your own peace and happiness in chaos, because if you can find your peace and happiness in chaos, that's 85% of the game, because a lot of things aren't going to go your way. You can have your own way of how you want to go about things, but like the hurdles and the obstacles you got to go through, that's the real test. You're going to have to really circumvent. You're going to have to find a way. It's a bunch of things that you're going to have to learn on the fly, but, don't get discouraged. Like I said, don't get overwhelmed. Just know that everybody's going through it. And I'm gonna leave y'all with this. One thing that helps me out, this is like, I knew this when I was like 19, even till now. Like, one thing that helps me out, I look at my situation like this. Okay, let's say at 19, okay, I didn't know, I only know theory, I didn't know service. I'm like, you know what? Instead of me feeling bad for myself, instead of me feeling bad for my circumstance, I know there's probably somebody out there right now, even if I don't know him or her, there's somebody out there that's going through what I'm going through now, but they actually made it through to the other side. And I'm like, if somebody else made it, I have to find a way. I don't know how that way is going to look. I don't know when it's going to come around, but I'm like, I have to fucking find a way. Like, feeling sorry for myself doesn't work. No one's going to save me. I'm not, what the fuck I'm going to do? Like, cry on Facebook saying that, like, I can't find a job, someone needs to help me. Like, it doesn't work. Like, it's just, everybody goes through it, but you have to find a way to get through what you're getting through. And like, fast forward now, like, health, health is 1,000%. That was my focal point. That's it. That currently is my focal point of this year, is just keeping, I still enjoy my hot wings, like I said, on Fridays and Sundays, because like, I still get my 10,000 steps in. And like, not only have I been able to, like I said, drop some weight this summer, but I was able to keep it off, which is great. My joints feel good. You got normal work aches here and there, but like, I'm already used to feeling achy and pains from the gym, so it's like it's not really anything abnormal. But like, gosh, I mean, I'm telling you now, like, I mean, that's, you know, those self evaluations, you know, that you have to go through. I'd rather you be honest with yourself. You know, don't wait until something happens to you, and now you have to make a quick change. Otherwise, you know, like, gosh, like, no one wants to go through this intervention in the hospital bed. It's just like, you know, come on, why? Like I said, guys, but guys, there you have it. You know, episode, what is this, 18 or 19? Episode 18, 19. I just wanted to highlight just the mental aspect of what goes into what we do. Even if we don't talk about it, most of the time I don't talk about it. If I talk about it, I always talk about the positives, guys. I always say, you know what? You know, if you're going through something, always understand it's somebody that's going through what you're going through now, but they made it through. They made it out. But how you make it out may look different than how they made it out, but just know that it's possible. You know, there is a solution to every problem, you know? So that's something I want to leave you guys with. Just like I said, whatever you're going through, just try to stay positive, but for damn sure, just don't stop working through it, you know? Even if you got kicked in your ass today, just get back up tomorrow, and like I said, try to get at it again, and like I said, again, hopefully you guys make it through to the other side. But guys, I got to get up out of here. Happy Friday, but for sure, be on the lookout. I'm gonna put one up tonight, and probably I'm gonna put one up. I got a bunch of stuff I gotta put out this weekend, but I gotta clear some storage out of my phone. But be on the lookout for more videos, and for sure more shorts. I'll put them up. But guys, I gotta rock out. I'll see y'all on the next one. Peace.